So every time I try to stop discussing this case, Miss Lively has yet another trick up her sleeve. So what's going on right now? So Miss Lively has just subpoenaed 14 unique individuals in this ongoing lawsuit. And I took the liberty of color coding them as well as organizing them into different categories for you guys so you can more easily see Miss Lively's latest victims. And hopefully in the duration of this video, I'll be able to enlighten you guys as to the true motivations and information that her legal team is likely hoping to extract from these individuals. So as always, take a seat, grab a snack, because it's going to be another long night. So something that is so fascinating about this case and something that I think everyone needs to be aware of is there's two things happening simultaneously. There is the public relations war in the court of public opinion, and then there's also the legal battle happening simultaneously. Which one they care about more? I think they're interwoven and they are sort of connected in a lot of important ways. At the heart of it, these are celebrities and they care about what people think. And Blake Lively very much cares about what people think. In fact, she admitted that in some of the text messages. We're going to look at the letter that Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, recently sent to Judge Lehman. I already feel so bad for Judge Lehman. I think he's exhausted by these people already. But what's important to note, and something that I don't think a lot of people noticed, is that Brian Friedman knows that we're going to be reading this as well. So he's not only sending this letter to communicate and hopefully achieve his goal, which in this case was getting the judge to intervene on these subpoenas, which are very, very broad in scope and not narrow at all and possibly against the law. And I think that there's little lines where I feel that he's actually communicating with us, okay? And this was one example. He said, "The Lively party's highly experienced counsel are surely well aware that the subpoenas they issued grossly exceed the scope of permissible discovery, as outlined in the federal rules." What I think is happening here is very, very obvious. I think that Blake Lively has completely taken over her legal team the same way that she's taken over this movie. And there's a lot of proof of that. One of the most obvious pieces of evidence for this theory, and I don't even think it's a theory, I think it's a fact, is when her attorneys were basically forced to tell Judge Lehman, hey, Blake Lively doesn't want to be deposed by Brian Friedman. Anyone who has so much as watched more than one episode of Suits knows that you don't get to select who deposes you. And Judge Lehman, if you look at the transcript, he basically laughed at them and was like, why are you asking that? Sometimes you have very, very high-strung, bossy clients who say, I don't care what the law is. That's what you're going to do. I'm not being deposed by Brian Friedman, so make it happen. And they're like, I can't do that. And obviously, it doesn't seem like Miss Lively is used to hearing the word no in her life. So I think that it's very likely that her legal team is quite frustrated with her. So I fully believe that these very far-reaching subpoenas are actually evidence of Lively's behavior behind the scenes. And when you have someone like Brian Friedman saying, the Lively party's highly experienced lawyers are surely well aware that these subpoenas are ridiculous, these are highly experienced lawyers. Of course they know this. But what I think is happening here is that Lively is weaponizing the legal system and really using it as an extension and an arm into the PR battle. So then there's another internal battle happening between the lawyers and her and the PR people, where the lawyers are like, we're lawyers, we're not PR people. We need to follow the law. We need to appear respectable. And the very last thing that the lawyers probably want is for the judge to catch on to the fact that Lively is basically taking advantage of the legal system to fight the PR battle. That's not what the legal system is for, right? And then we have even more evidence of this when Brian Friedman says, it appears that these subpoenas are more than anything else a media ploy, having been promptly leaked alongside a lengthy and combative statement by the Lively party's legal team. So as soon as these subpoenas were issued, they also released a statement in the Hollywood Reporter. So like I said, we have the legal battle which is happening, which is literally physically overlaid on top of the public relations battle. And we have Lively's lawyer who came out in tandem with these subpoenas being issued saying, we will now receive all of the receipts that unsurprisingly are nowhere to be found on Mr. Brian Friedman's website, and like Miss Lively, those receipts will have their day in court. So the reason why that statement is so ridiculous is that these subpoenas that they're seeking are not between Lively and other people. They don't know what receipts they're gonna find. They're guessing. They are basically reverse engineering a case here. It seems that Lively is fully convinced that all of the outrage toward her in August was purely a smear campaign, was not organic at all, and is fully and wholeheartedly relying on this idea that she's going to find some kind of smoking gun, which does not at this point in time exist. Otherwise, she would have included it in her original complaint and her original lawsuit. And if there were messages between her and Justin Baldoni where he was admitting something, she would have included that. So we've really seen all of her evidence. There's not a lot of it, and it's really obvious that they're hoping to use these subpoenas to uncover something, and that's why they are so broad. And also, I don't even think logistically, if they were to receive 3 years worth of text messages, they even have the resources to read all of that. They're a small team of lawyers. But despite the fact that these subpoenas are fairly meritless, if I was on Baldoni's legal team, I would be concerned about the fact that some of them were issued to the cell phone providers themselves. And we already heard from Brian Friedman that one of the cell phone providers have already agreed to providing the information being sought through the subpoenas. And I have a theory that it's likely the cell phone provider who's being so cooperative is likely T-Mobile. If you guys know, Mint Mobile was partially owned by Ryan Reynolds, and he actually sold it to T-Mobile for $1.35 billion. So that could provide an explanation as to why one of the cell phone providers is being so cooperative, despite the fact that these subpoenas are being contested in court. So let's go through each one of these subpoenas so we can better understand exactly what Lively is looking for. So the first group I put together is the Wayfair group. Lively is subpoenaing both the executives of the company as well as the staff. So what is she looking for? Her first victim, of course, is Justin Baldoni. She is seeking every single call, text, data, location from December 2022 up until today. That is the same for Jamie Heath. It is the same for Steve Sarowitz, who is the co-founder, the billionaire, you guys know him. And then also someone named Tara Hanks, who is the president of Wayfair. So the reason why this is so bizarre, and I flagged this, is because they're seeking the same thing, every single text, email, piece of data, her location for the past 3 years. And the reason why I think this is further evidence of either, number one, Lively has the dumbest lawyers in the entire world, which I don't believe, or number two, this is the result of Lively throwing a temper tantrum, because Tara Hanks didn't join the company until March of 2024. So what could you possibly want from her for 2 years previously? You want to see her doctor's appointments? You want to see her messaging her kids? I'm just reading right now that she has 5 daughters. So you want to see all her messages between her daughters? Like, why could you possibly want that? It's completely irrelevant. Objection, relevance, there's no relevance. And it's just evidence that this is Blake Lively. They are also seeking the records, same thing, for the staff, someone named Milika Doskovic, who is the vice president, same thing, December 2022 up until today. And then someone named Jeriesi Blackman, another red flag because she's seeking everything from his phone from December 2022 up until today, but he did not join until July of 2024. Make it make sense. So Lively's next group of victims is everybody at the agency group, which is the public relations firm that Lively believes is responsible for the smear campaign. This was actually the only subpoena that made sense to me, that she actually got the dates right. So she wants Melissa Nathan's cell phone from July 2024 up until today. So that's a little bit more reasonable because that's when she was actually involved in the situation. She's also seeking Jennifer Abel, who was originally Justin Baldoni's PR person and then moved over to TAG. And then also 3 team members, Katie Case, Brianna Butler, Matthew Mitchell, sorry, Blake Lively wants your cell phones. The next victims of this flagrant invasion of privacy are people by the name of Matthew and Henry, who work at Jones Works, which was the public relations firm that originally employed Jennifer Abel before she left, quit, and then the lady that ran that company, who was a little bit wacko, was ultimately the one that gave her cell phone to Blake Lively, where she found those text messages that she later doctored for the New York Times article. I personally don't think these guys know anything, but for whatever reason, Lively wants their entire digital existence for the past 3 years. So I'm sorry, Matthew Gibson and Henry Hargitay. I hope that you guys weren't cheating on your spouses, because we're gonna find out. And then lastly, we have Jed Wallace, who's on an island all on his own. Of course, Blake Lively wants every single text message, every single Google search that he's ever made for the past 3 years. This guy is a little bit weird though, so I am curious to see what comes from him. These subpoenas are so utterly insulting that I think Brian Friedman should respond by subpoenaing Taylor Swift's correspondence with Blake Lively, because surely if she was being harassed, she would have shared it with her best friend.